Hey, David, St. Patty's Day. You're in my room again. Get out.
Matthew, I can't celebrate St. Patrick's Day this year, as I am not of Irish descent, and it would be culturally insensitive for me to do otherwise.
David, what?
St. Patrick's Day has a history of humiliating the Irish people due to thousands and thousands of drunk Americans distorting the Irish history, and I can no longer be a part of that cultural appropriation anymore.
David, besides the fact of whether or not I agree or disagree with what you just said, what is with the speech patterns? You sound like you swallowed Microsoft Sam.
Because, Matthew, even words can be used to appropriate cultures. And I have to be conscious of every word I say so as to avoid any social faux pas. Fuck!
What?
Faux pas is French. I'm stealing that from the French people. I am so sorry, French people. I'll make it up to you. I swear. Bad David. Bad David. Bad David.
Whoa. Okay, as we have discussed countless times before, I am Irish, and I give you permission to go balls to the wall on celebrating St. Patty's Day.
Hey! Well, I'm glad you said that, laddie, because it's top of the morning and I want to make a trip down to the old pub.
Oh no.
Okay then. We watched a movie today.
Leprechaun. Origins.
Origins. Now, who here doesn't know about the Leprechaun franchise? Show of hands. It's all right.
No, I know. I've seen like what one.
Well, for the show, we did Leprechaun 2. Why? Because it was the only one on Netflix at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then I think before that, when we did like the last Leprechaun, that was like the only one on there.
Pretty much, it's always just been a collection of what the only one on Netflix is at the time.
But this time, we went to Amazon Prime.
Yes, and this is the only Leprechaun film they had on at the time. So
yeah.
So
that says something. This movie, Back to the Hood, is not even on here.
All right, so let me go through the Leprechaun series real quick. Warwick Davis plays a diminutive little man. Named. Does he have a name? Does the Leprechaun have a name?
I don't know.
All right, well, let's just say he is the Leprechaun.
He is just the Leprechaun.
And this is 1993 with a young Jennifer Aniston in one of her earlier roles.
I saw that one.
And it is a
I've seen 2.
Cult smash. Everyone's like, oh man, it's so silly.
Fuck you, Lucky Charms.
Kid with a slingshot, fuck you. Like, oh god, it's so silly. And so they made a second one. And then they made a third one. And then they made a fourth one in space. And then they're like, God, this is getting a little bit silly, guys. Once you go in space, what do you really do from there? So let's bring it back down to Earth. But
to the hood.
To the hood. And they did 2 movies where it's Leprechaun in the hood. And then after that...
Trying to reach that urban demographic.
And then after that, people stopped watching. And that was... When was that, actually? Leprechaun 4, Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun...
Back 2... With a number 2.
That was 2003.
And
they did nothing with it for 11 years. And then they made this movie, which is not a sequel. It is not a prequel.
It is a reboot.
This movie has nothing to do with the Warwick Davis series.
No.
At all. Kind of depressing in a way.
Now, I could have been behind a reboot of the franchise if it kept the elements that kept the originals entertaining in the first place. Warwick Davis, I'm not saying you necessarily have to have Warwick Davis, because then again, he might not even agree to it. Yeah. But at the same time, though, Warwick Davis was one of the reasons why those movies worked in the first place. Like, without because he's a charismatic actor. He had a
charm to him.
Yeah, he's a charismatic. He was Willow, like.
But yeah,
he was Grip Hook.
He was the Ewok, the main one.
Yeah, I never
whatever his name was. Anyway.
Yep.
Probably. So All right, for this movie, I'll plot real quick.
Yeah.
Plot of this movie is it is in Ireland. There are 4 teens, 2 couples, Ben and Sophie, and Jenny and David. And they are in Ireland doing a little trip. And Sophie wants to go see these things called the Stones of the Gods.
Yes.
This guy is in the pub over here, and he's like, oh, I couldn't help it over here. I could take you up to the Stones, but you ought to stay in the cottage for the night.
I couldn't help it over here. You have a plot device.
And they go and they stay in the cottage for the night that this guy puts up, and he ends up locking them in with his son, by the way. His son's not locked in with him, but he's doing this with his son.
Family outings and all that jazz.
Yeah. So they lock him in, and then this creature comes after them in the night, and it's discovered to be the Leprechaun, who...
Though, we'll get to that in a second.
So apparently this movie's thing is that the Leprechaun lived in a cave with all of its gold. Then these people moved into town, went into the cave, and mined out all of its gold. Leprechaun does not like having its gold stolen, and that's carried throughout everything. That's a general thing.
That's the whole reason why this shit in every movie happens.
So, in penance for stealing the gold, they deliver human sacrifice to this leprechaun beast to be eaten, pretty much. Not entirely said why it likes the taste of human flesh more than gold, but hey, whatever. Though it does steal the gold off of the person. So like if they're wearing gold earrings or a gold tongue ring.
It doesn't even look like he eats them.
Yeah, it just shows like they kill them.
He just like rips them apart, but then just moves on to the next one. Yeah. So what exactly is the penance?
Maybe it's just a murder thing. But it's literally innocent people are allowed to be sacrificed, a la Cabin in the Woods.
There's a lot of Cabin in the Woods parallels.
Yeah, so the story of these is that they get attacked and they realize that maybe it has like a circle that's allowed to operate in. And the Stones of the Gods are that circle. So they're trying to make their way out past the Stone of the God, but then they keep on being dragged back, and the people who locked them in are trying to do that. But the son character, he's like, oh, Dad, maybe they've earned their freedom. Maybe we shouldn't be killing the innocents anymore. Maybe we should just move.
Maybe fuck you, son. Let's help this. Let's kill the little children.
Oh, all right, Dad. Don't want to be angry at you. And then, he stands up to his dad in the end. But,
Dad, I must betray you. Boy, why did you betray me?
Yes, your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Ah!
So, they end up being all killed off except for Sophie, the virgin character.
And the son.
They never explicitly show that the son did survive, but the last shot we see of him, he did.
Yeah,
and the leprechaun kind of just
let him go. Because he's sorry.
Yeah, he's sorry for what his family did.
It might be. I'm sorry, Mr. Leprechaun.
Don't eat me.
Don't eat me. Don't eat my dad. Go ahead and eat my dad. I'll sit here and watch.
Yep. And
that's literally what happens.
The main girl, she almost to the stones, but then the leprechaun catches up to her, and she finds that the gold coins were in this couple that we saw as like a little beginning thing.
The prologue.
It was in that bag that they had, and she sees that and she's like, oh, I have a plan. And the leprechaun's coming up after her, and so she takes the coins and she takes a machete that she had with her and she's like, fuck you, Lucky Charms. She threw the coins up in the air and then cut off the leprechaun's head, and she staggers to freedom and everything's fine.
And then there's 3 more.
But then there's a small horde of leprechauns that are in the grass and we don't get to see them. Cut to black. Cue 15 minutes of fucking credits, it seems like. Jesus
and then
Christ.
It jumps out at the end and goes, rah.
And then the post-credit scene is just, rah! Leprechaun origins.
Now, the first main issue with this movie.
I'm curious, what's yours?
Well, I mean...
Because my first issue is that it's a WWE film. That's not
initially.
Oculus.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, like, because the thing is, though... Yes, that is my first initial, oh god, what the hell is about to happen? Like, are we gonna... Like, it's a difference when it comes down to WWE films, like, are we gonna get Oculus, which is a damn good movie, or you're gonna get, like, See No Evil, right? Which... Why? That was one of the first ones, too, actually. That was one of the old ones. That was with Kane.
I want to look up their history, actually.
Yeah, it was like, but for the most part, the first part that really stuck out to me the most was that it ticks every box. We were going through trying to name which of the main 4 characters were the stereotypical
the cabin in the woods archetypes.
Yeah, so you got the virgin, you got the scholar, the brain,
the jock, the whore, and the fool.
Yeah, and the fool and the jock are kind of meshed together into what's that? Is that David?
That's David.
That's David. So David,
don't you point at me, you fuck.
Hey, you have no bad. Yeah, how bad it was when I had to watch. I Spit on Your Grave and the awkward rapist is named Matthew.
Of course.
It's like, Jesus Christ, insulting my name. But the thing is, though, like, all of the way that the talk is done, it's just like, at first, I'm like, okay, this is kind of going along at a brisk pace. We see how this goes. But then, when they're riding in the truck to go to the cabin, he's just like...
He had everything.
He had a really expensive watch on.
A gold watch.
Yeah, and they're asking, oh, that's from a gift, huh? From a guest.
I guess that he enjoyed my
hospitality.
No smile or anything, just...
I put down Shatner talk.
Pretty much.
Because that's really how a lot of these people do. When you're like, wait, it's like, here's my dramatic pause.
Yeah, it was, but it was not pausing in the fact of dramatic. It was pausing in the fact of suspense. It was like, oh, look how scary it is.
It's like, the problem is, guys, if it's going to be suspenseful, it's going to be suspenseful. If you're trying too hard at it, it's going to come off hammy.
Yeah, when it came down to the father character and also the son, because they were never really that far apart. The father character, Hamish. I don't know. Hamish, he was the stereotypical, just like, this is what we have to do, son. This is, we have to do this. Despite the son saying, like, there are 1,000 ways that we could just get out of it. We could leave.
We could just move.
We could give him back the gold. We could do any of this stuff. It's like, no.
Yeah, why is it that giving back the gold was never an option?
I don't know.
Why sacrificing tourists was the first place that you went to?
But they're not innocent, son. They're outsiders. Tourists. That somehow makes them not innocent.
And now we're up to our knees in dog muck and filthy, crusty jugglers.
The greater good.
The greater good. Like, seriously, a lot of this movie is just taking notes from basically other more successful movies that involve the genre. Like, one thing that I noticed a lot of parallels with this movie is the movie Creature.
Yeah,
that we've reviewed before on the show, which none of y'all seem to have been interested in.
It's okay. We weren't interested either.
I was. Because if you go back to the review and whatnot, you look at how I was acting, like, the movie itself I enjoyed because it was a subversion of those tropes. It was a little too on the nose, so, like, it didn't really pull off a lot of stuff, but I saw what it was going for. This one, it kind of reminds me of a movie that I just recently reviewed for Film Threat, which, to get the actual review, you have to go on the website, but it's called The Child Remains. And on the IMDb, it said taking inspiration from movies The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, and Session 9. I looked at my list and I realized those are all of the movies that we were ripping off the whole fucking film.
I don't know. Inspired.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think the way that I put it is that they were so inspired that they literally lifted things from the movies without changing anything to the actual film's plot.
Yeah, and that's really what we were saying in this movie the whole time, was that it wasn't that... there was no one movie that we could really just pick up, except kind of Creature, but that's just...
Like Creature, that we also got, was it the... we got The Descent with the design with...
We'll get to that again.
Leprechaun.
But it wasn't that there was any one thing. It was just that this is what modern horror movies are. There's no camp to them. They're just, here's exactly what everybody else is doing. And it's not inherently bad, but you've seen it before.
Yeah, it's a way of going about it. Like, as I was telling David, like, from my own perspective, this has been a very common thing since the start of the French extremism movement, which started movies like Frontiers and Martyrs, like all these really hardcore gore and horror films, which directly inspired Saw and Hostel, all these types of movies. The problem is with this type of movie, one, the effects in this movie are not bad.
No.
They definitely do what they need to.
There was a part where the leprechaun tore out the girl's tongue
stud,
and that was very gruesome. And I had to look away for a second there because that's one of my things. It's just
dental horror.
Yes.
There's a great movie called Contagion, which is all about that.
No.
Not Contagion, sorry. And never mind. It's like it's from David Cronenberg's son.
Oh wow!
I wrote an article about it years ago. But moving on. D.
It's just the part where they're singing and drinking in the car. It was the Whose Lines That Anyway Irish drinking song opening.
The hoedown?
Well, no, the hoedown's the hoedown, but the Irish drinking song is like, oh, day day.
It's like, there was a line that was said between the characters. This is kind of cemented their characters. With us.
Yeah.
It's just like they're trying to open the door. They can't open the door. It's like they locked us from the outside. It's like the slut character, even though she's not really slutty, it's just that's the character.
I do want to say one thing. I'll let you finish, but I do want to say one thing. Her and her boyfriend cannot keep their fucking hands off each other at the beginning of this movie.
No.
It gets better as time goes on, but at the beginning it's like, all right, so what should we do? It's like, oh, well, let's do this. We made a decision.
But they said it's like they locked us in here. She's like, they didn't lock us in here. And then she starts like,
no, she didn't say they didn't lock us in there. She said the line was well, that can't be the only door, is there?
And then
she's like, no, of course not.
No, because it was when he was like, that's the only door, isn't it? Yeah. And she's like, no, it couldn't be. And then she goes over to a window and starts pushing at the bars. It's like, honey,
that's not a door.
Nah, it's like I'm just.
One thing I do want to mention.
The Harbinger. The Harbinger was like one of the first characters we saw, but he was only there for like 2 seconds.
He wasn't the Harbinger. He was just the guy driving the truck. He drove them up to the edge of the Stone of the Gods, and he's like, oh, I'm not taking you any further, lads. I'm staying right here. And then he just left. He didn't say, oh, my dad used to live down there, and there's some bad things happening. You might not be able to make it back.
The Harbinger doesn't need to literally tell you, because, like, think about this for instance. In the movie Children of the Corn, the Harbinger in that movie is an old guy who owns a gas station working on a car. And he actually and they'll ask him, it's like, what about, I can't remember the name, I think it was like Baker. He's like, what about Baker? Oh, there's nothing in Baker. Don't go to Baker. And he's like, go to this town, turn this way, and go this way. And then afterwards, they're like, they're coming and trying to kill him. He's like, I told them what you wanted. Come after me, you little bastards. Like, but he was totally the Harbinger character. So I think that character can kind of work. It's the Harbinger of Doom, but he doesn't necessarily.
I honestly would give that more to the father character. I give that more to Hamish.
Yeah, but he's not trying to warn them.
No, he's not.
The Harbinger is there because they're there to give the final warning, and if they don't heed the warning, that's on them.
The Harbinger needs to be more of a good guy than a bad guy.
Yeah, or at least a neutral party.
Right.
I mean, like, it works for Cabin in the Woods the way that it does, but at the same time, like, even the guys who run the show don't take the Harbinger seriously.
One thing I wanted to mention, though, was the deaths. There was the 3 core characters. David, first off, he gets his leg chewed up. And then
he's able to run a lot on that.
He's limping on that for the entirety of the movie. Then they get tied up later on, and he gets his stomach fucking gashed open, like huge,
he's gutted,
gushing things. But then he still manages to get up, get an axe, and cut all the other people free before he's finally taken out. The second death,
he became from an idiot to a bamf.
I'm going to go to third death actually, which was Ben. The love interest of Sophie, the main character.
Spoilers.
He was captured by the Leprechaun, telling Sophie, get up to the attic, quick, quick, quick. And then you see him get pulled back by the Leprechaun, and the Leprechaun grabs his spine and rips it out, Mortal Kombat style.
Yeah, like it's totally a fatality.
Oh, that was good. But the one that was really like a thing was they made this plan that they were going to lure the Leprechaun back into the cottage, and when it came in through the only entrance, they were going to attack it and kill it there. And then they'd escape and make their way out. But Jenny was the one who was waiting on the outside to lock it in, and she jumped a bit too soon. The Leprechaun grabbed her and threw her in front of him, and they came down hard and quick, so that Sophie's axe just straight into her face. And she had a great reaction to that. Yeah. It was good,
and then it kind of went back to, we gotta get back to...
we gotta go!
Yeah, but at the same time, that was a legitimately cool... And also, the problem I have, really, with the antagonist character, with the Leprechaun...
Well, real quick, I just want... All 3 of the deaths, great. I didn't have a problem with any of them.
Well, the only thing that I was gonna mentioned about that one moment where he tosses her inside instead is that moment denotes strategic intelligence.
True.
So the entire rest of this movie, the Leprechaun is going around like, the moment it sees gold or something like that, with its like infrared vision, which doesn't always work. Yeah. But he goes around getting all this gold, and he's like just gutting and eating people and stuff like that. But there's no cleverness or tricks or traps.
The most cleverness there really is that it does the horror movie standard where it's like, oh, well, clearly it's behind you, and nope, suddenly it's in front of you. That's the most it does in like cutting people off at the pass.
But that means that doesn't actually incorporate any legitimate stories from Leprechauns. And again, you can make your own, because again, this is supposed to be a reboot and a completely new way of going at it. But I think this kind of reminds me back of when the Nostalgia Critic was doing Quest for Camelot. The thing is, though, there is an already established mythology here. Now, I'm not saying that you can't deviate it and make it your own, but at the same time, though, you're throwing out basically everything about leprechauns except that they're fucking fanatical for gold.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much this thing... I guess we should talk about the design of the leprechaun now.
It's Gollum.
And
Grendel. They fucked.
It lived in a cave and cared very much about its precious gold.
And also it looks like one of the creepers from The Descent.
Yeah. It's like all three things. It's kind of got an orcish face from...
it's like...
It's like a very pronounced lower...
Got some big teeth. Kind of looks like a muskrat.
Underbite. It's got an underbite. But it's not what I would think of. Like, even if you look at Warwick Davis's Leprechaun, that isn't exactly a...
No, it's very evil.
It's very evilish looking, but it still has the green and everything like that.
And also, you don't even need to have the green. Just at the same time, like, even you can be completely dressed differently than any other leprechaun in history. But at the same time, though, there's no... Again, it goes back to, like, there's no tricking. There's no traps. There's no, merriment for the sake of this torment and all that kind of stuff, which leprechauns are known for. And that's one of the things that the Leprechaun movies, the original set, got right.
This is literally just a monster. There is nothing... Like, it doesn't even really go over its, like, power set or anything that much. And somehow...
It's just really strong, and it has claws.
And it has, like, predator vision.
And every single time we see it, everything is, like, blurred out. So, because, like, if you don't see it, it can't be that bad.
But no, it's a strange way of doing the leprechaun thing. I don't inherently dislike it, but like I said, it's just so
They didn't
generic.
do anything with it, though.
It's so generic that I don't... There's no way... Like, the only reason I'm going to remember this is because it's part of the Leprechaun series.
And it's also so radically different than the other ones.
If they didn't call this movie Leprechaun Origins, if they called it, like, Escaping Ireland,
and they didn't say
like
anything about leprechauns in it or something like that,
if they called it, like, Luck of the Irish or something, then I would not remember this monster at all. It's only going to be lodged in there because it's like, they really thought that was a leprechaun.
It looks like a reject from Fringe.
It looks like, what was that choice game that we were into for a short period of time? Until Dawn?
Oh, yeah, Until Dawn. Yeah, it looks like one of the creatures from Until Dawn. I still got to play that again. I've only played through that thing once. The only other things that I have to mention, at least one, is that they have a standoff with the son and then the father. The son and the father have shotguns.
Yep.
They have melee weapons. They have a pickaxe, a machete, an axe, and a pipe.
Yeah.
And they like stand over in the side of the basement.
Like, okay, here's the door. Here's the stairs.
And here's them.
Here's them. And then here's the wall to the basement. Like, and there's a good 15 feet here.
And then he walks down, and he's like looking, and looking, and then finally tilts up, and then boom, finds him.
Well, when he say boom,
and, he like all of a sudden there, and they still don't move. He doesn't move, and then all of a sudden the father comes down and like holds up the gun, and then all of a sudden David tries to go forward with the fight.
We should have attacked. Damn it! Why didn't we think of that? We shouldn't have attacked.
It's like you can't have a standoff, and like they're telling him to lower the guns. Yeah. I'm like, dude.
The only reason
that's buckshot.
Like, the only reason I could see that like what their mental process might have been was just overwhelming him if he took the shot or something.
Yeah.
Like, one of them was going to go down, but then three of them were still there.
The guy who played the son wasn't bad though.
No, I very much. I said that he looked like a young John Voight.
Yeah.
And I really did like him, and I liked his motivation stuff because
maybe a little pudgier.
He didn't do anything. he was just brought into this, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. And
that would have been a really interesting morality play.
Yeah.
And guys, like...
But and I think it was an interesting morality play because he was loyal to his dad. Like, every time that his dad came in, he was, like, willing to let these people go.
All these things you made me do.
He was willing to just let them leave, like, at least 3 times over the course of this. But every single time when his dad came in, he's like, oh, yeah, Dad, I got him.
He fumbles. He folds.
He's very much loyal to his dad. So then when it comes down to the end, when he's, like, willing to sacrifice his own father so that he can leave, pretty much.
Because he can do the right thing.
Yeah, so he was willing to give up that stuff on his dad and actually let the people escape. And I felt that was a good morality thing. But his character was so small in the grand scheme of things, and especially compared to the main characters who didn't have much of anything going for them. Like the Sophie and Ben, their entire thing at the beginning was that their relationship's on the rocks because one's going to like Harvard Med School or something.
That doesn't ever.
And the other one doesn't want to go to Berkeley, but like nothing happens. And at the end, it's not like I think the only thing that kind of comes up with it is when they're debating which one should go for the keys. Mm-hmm. She says the line I think she like mirrors the line that he says earlier, where it's like I can do this on my own, or I don't need you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like. She's saying how she's okay with moving on as well. That's the only way that it's mirrored at all.
And that's also a stretch.
Yeah.
It's like, so, I mean, other than that, final thoughts.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Final thoughts for me is that, I mean, if I had to give this like a rating out of like 5 stars, it'd be like a 1.5. Mm-hmm. It's not atrocious. I've seen worse movies that I've rated the same score. But the thing is, though, there wasn't enough of the movie that made me enjoy it, that I can overlook all the blandness and generic BS that goes on in the rest of this film. Like, the way that it describes itself in its own description, like, it's like, wow, this is a new take on an old legend, and you've never seen anything like this before. I'm like, yeah, I kind of have, like, a lot. Like, this is just, swap out whatever type of character that you want, Goonie, was it Gremlins, Ghoulies, whatever the fuck else you want to do, Hobgoblins, it's just pick, your character of the week type deal, and try to just deformanize them and dehumanize them to a degree. One of the reasons why I think the Warwick Davis movies, regardless of how bad they happen to be, but they have this charm to them, is because there is this human charm to the villain that you can relate in a way to their wrongdoing because, oh, look at these crazy shenanigans, but it's like, it starts off at like kind of like a normal prank, but then it just kind of evolves into murder. Yeah. So at first it's like, oh shit. This one is just, rawr, gold, eat, die, and then there's apparently more of them now.
Yeah, for me, it does come down to what you have to compare it to the original Leprechaun series, in that the reason that the original ones work is because the camp of it, like, they don't take it 100% seriously. It's a silly concept.
Yeah, it's a leprechaun.
It's a leprechaun, and it's committing murder on a grand scale due to a
Did you get its gold back?
It's such a silly concept. Especially, the only way that you could really make it work in serious is if you completely erase from the viewer's mind what a leprechaun is.
Yeah.
Then you can reinstill as like, no, these things are terrifying fucking creatures. But you can't. You can't do that. So you have to play into it a little bit, and this movie didn't do that. It decided, no, we're going to play this thing totally seriously. Oh, so you're going to make it some other creature from Irish lore that's actually terrifying? No, it's still going to be a leprechaun. Oh.
I think that's...
So it's going to be in, like, green outfit and stuff, and you'll play up the funniness of, like, a little thing like that. No, seriously. It's going to be like a demonic-looking creature.
Well, it's like what I said about the Evil Dead, because the original Evil Dead had a bunch of hoke and a bunch of cheese in it and stuff like that to balance out the crazy, like, ultra-violent shit.
Yeah.
But the new one went hardcore and dark, and I actually think the new one works in the way that it does. But at the same time, though, it had enough of its own original content in which that they could make things, work in that particular type of universe. This one, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, this one, it really does come down to, if you're not comparing it to the Leprechaun series, if you're looking at it on its own, it's everything you've already seen.
Yeah.
And maybe this would be good for someone who hasn't been instilled with all the horror. Like, the fact that we were so easily able to do all the Cabin in the Woods parallels, like, that's that archetype, means that they weren't working outside.
There's no depth.
They weren't working outside the formula at all. And you don't have to, but it helps with someone who's already been subjected to this stuff, and with someone who's willing to watch a Leprechaun Origins. Like, just the title, Leprechaun Origins, implies that you've already seen some of the Leprechaun films.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go back and watch the Origins one first. Well, you would maybe if you went through it, but
you shouldn't have called this Origins either if this was supposed to be a reboot of the series. Origins alludes prequel.
Unless you were planning on making more in this series, in which case...
They're taking a while to do it. This came out in 2013, 2014.
2014 was released, yeah.
So it's been about 4 years now, guys.
Yeah, tell me how that works out for you. But all in all, you gave it a rating, I'll give it a rating. I'm a bit more forgiving with it. I'd probably give it a 2 to a 2.5, but it's still failing. I'm not going to say it was anything better than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is Leprechaun Origins. So now we can get back to when leprechauns are all cute and fuddly and fun. Oh, son of a bitch. Hold on. I got this. Okay. There we go. Power outage.
Yeah, it looks like.
You know what that means.
We didn't pay our electric bill.
The supernatural.
Dave, that's a real stretch.
I told you!
David, can we just hunker down in here?
But who's gonna investigate the scary noises?
I don't want to.
Bloomers and blue moons.
Must be a draft. It could be possible.
Pots of gold and rainbows.
Is that all of a sudden feeling that there's somebody in here?
Yep.
And the red balloons. Are you two after me, Lucky Charm?
I got this, man. Yeah! Didn't see that one coming. Oh, God! Oh, Jesus, why did I say yes? Oh, God, he's inside!
Did you go?
Oh, Jesus, help me!
Oh, use bleach.
Oh, God, it hurts so much! Oh.